Hey, I'm on the edge of my seat here, back again with another brand new video, and today I will be no-damaging the first 6 chapters of the Resident Evil 4 remake, or as they said in the original game, Resident Evil 4, which they have sadly removed from the remake here, which is such a shame because it's so iconic and sinister and it really brings out the evil in this residence. And here we're going to be starting off with chapter 1, and the way this game kind of like sections off its chapters is different from the original, because the original kind of had this whole typewriter, and the typewriter is still here, but it would be like chapter 1/1, 1/2, 1/3, and then it'll be like, chapter 2/1, 2/2, 2/3, while here it's just chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which is a little simpler to understand, but there's just something kind of iconic about that, slashes of the original, which is just completely gone here. And right now we're just kind of going for a whole cinematic vibe, so you can kind of just run through this section here, like, no biggie. And they made it like a little more creepy, and I am skipping the cutscenes as they go along, Right now I am doing a little bit of an inoptimal cutscene skip strategy where I hold down the button to skip them, when really a lot of the time it would be better to just enter the pause screen and skip. And here there's going to be I believe there's going to be an enemy near a staircase. We're going to be approaching him, but right now we're in a cutscene, but we're going to skip that. And then there's going to be an enemy, I think right around here I'm going to go to this corner here and then wait for the enemy to kind of drop down there and then run past them. But something you should be wary of is that this isn't always going to work out. Because the grab detection in this game can be a little bit inconsistent, because sometimes the enemies won't grab you, sometimes they will grab you, and I decided to crouch down there because I think if you just run straight past him, he will try to get you, but if you crouch for a little bit, you have a bit better window to get past him. That's the one thing with this game, is I do think that it might be a little bit harder than the original, just because there's certain grab detection stuff that's a little bit more punishing. Though I'm not 100% sure about that, because it's been such a long time since I've no-damaged the original. And well, when I say the original, I actually have a video where I've no-damaged the Wii edition of Resident Evil 4. Also, I should mention that this, just like my Resident Evil 4 Wii edition video, this will be a segmented run. So whenever you see a cut like that, it means that I loaded a save file. So just keep that in mind. Now, if you're wondering why I've split up this video into the first 6 chapters of the game, it's because when I was playing this game and no-damaging, just going through the no-damage of it, I had so much homework to do. I'm pretty much in my final, senior year of college. I'm going to graduate, I'm going to get a bachelor's in fine arts, and I was just mega busy. I worked on a short film, which all of you might be able to witness publicly in a year or so. I can't really release that yet because I have to submit it to more film festivals. And yeah, there were a couple enemies behind me. I just decided to run past them. But the reason I decided to split it up into 6 chapters is that I did kind of no damage the first six chapters of the game, and the first I am splitting up. I am just completely demolishing my words, but the first 6 chapters of this game pretty much embody the first third of this game. It's the village section, just like the original game. This remake is kind of split up into 3 parts. There's the village section, there's the castle section, and then there's the island section. So what I've decided to do for my Resident Evil 4 no damage runs is I'm just going to split up the videos into the village section, the castle section, and the island section. So pretty much the next no damage video I release will be Resident Evil 4 chapters. I forgot exactly which chapters encompass the castle section, but it will be the castle section. And here I'm just kind of doing a strategy where I'm stealthily collecting materials. I did release an April Fool's video where I pretty much almost no damage this section, and it was such a pain because if I actually succeeded at no damaging with the strategy I used in my April Fool's video, it would have been cooler than what I do here. But what I do here is still really, really cool, or at the very least very lucky. And here I just want to mention something from my notes. So the crates you can break in this game will give you items, right? Look at that, I got an item right now. Some are always going to give you the same item, while the rest are random. So in the beginning village fight, the route I follow will always give me 2 grenades. But one time, a random crate gave me a grenade, so for that battle I had 3 grenades. And that's perfect because the grenades are super important for dealing with the chainsaw man in my camping spot, which I'm going to be approaching. Anyways, this part right here, that's always going to give you grenades. So And boom, there we go. Got a little sick parry there to run past them. So right now, once I do my little run around to get all the materials I want, I'm going to pretty much enter this house with a shotgun, get the shotgun, jump off, and then I'm going to camp out in the clock tower. And that's pretty much like the strategy for this entire village fight. And you really do have to get lucky with the materials you get here and just really, really pray that one of like the crates gives you an extra grenade. Because if you don't have that extra grenade, this will be much, much harder. But yeah, so to get back to it. The attempt I'm talking about with the 3 grenades, it was a previous attempt where pretty much I got 3 grenades and it was super important for dealing with a chainsaw man in my camping spot, but I got immediately grabbed when I jumped out of the window of the house in a previous attempt, you know, the house with the shotgun, and I just got so mad because it just ruined a near perfect run because those random crates never give out like 3 grenades except for this attempt, which did give me 3 grenades. I hope that what I'm saying makes sense. But yeah, a previous attempt, I was able to get 3 grenades, but I got immediately grabbed the second I jumped out of the house. And this attempt, I got 3 grenades, and, well, I succeeded. So pretty much the rest of the video is just going to be me camping out here. So with the pistol, you can pretty much like shoot down every single enemy to the ground, and you can kind of just abuse that. But whenever the chainsaw man comes up, you can throw a grenade to knock him down to the ground, and you just really have to pray that the chainsaw man doesn't try to like climb the stairs again. And here I got a little bit unlucky because the chainsaw man just decided, you know what, I'm gonna climb the stairs again. And will he do it again? I'm not sure. Okay, he let the other people climb first, but there kind of comes a point where if you deal enough damage to the chainsaw man, he just gets like too mad to climb the stairs again, or if like the RNG just works in your favor, the chainsaw man just never climbs up again. But here he decided to climb up again. So I kind of have to throw the grenade again. And in this attempt, he will climb up again. And if you get really, really, really lucky with the shotgun, you can shoot him down. But like, I don't know exactly like the perfect way to like shoot him down with a shotgun. Like, I just got like insanely lucky just blasting him like this. Because like sometimes you'll blast him like this and he won't like fall down the way he did right there. Like sometimes you'll just like not get stunned by your shotgun whatsoever. And it's just utterly strange. And an important thing about this section is that you really, really have to time when to reload your weapon, because if you reload your weapon at the wrong time, like the enemy will just get the jump on you. And to be fair, I mean that is kind of true with like the original game as well, but I'm telling you, for this strategy, like reload times take a really, really long time if you don't upgrade your weapons. And well, it's the beginning of the game, so really time those reloads, like, you know, smartly, intelligently. I don't think smartly is an actual word. I don't know if that actually exists in the dictionary. If I had to compare my no damage strategy in the original game compared to this remake, I do camp in both games. Like in this game, I camp in this like watchtower, while in the original game, I kind of chose a house with a lock and like no windows to kind of camp out there with like the shotgun and just kind of like push away any enemies that open the door. And in this game, I don't really think there's a house like that, so there's like no real good houses to like, you know, camp out in, because like there's a window next to it, or they'll break down the door. Like the way that doors are handled in this game, they just are not as useful to rely on as in the original game. And there's actually a reason why you couldn't camp out at the watchtower in the original game for no damage. Because pretty much what will end up happening is that the enemies will start throwing like fire molotovs at you, or just like fire grenades. Oh yeah, that's one thing. This game removes fire grenades for some reason, which is kind of sad, because the fire grenades were really useful, but they're just gone here. I don't know, maybe because they don't exist in real life and this game wanted to be a little bit more realistic. I don't know what they're doing, but yeah. But in this game, for some reason, the enemies don't really throw any fire molotovs, or just, they don't throw anything when you're up there. However, one thing you do have to watch out for when you climb up here is that there's a reason why I only stick to like one tiny part of that little area, is because if you move any more in that area, the whole thing will break down and you'll like fall straight down to the ground. So you really have to be careful about that. You know, you have to like stay in your little corner, look down, do not move like too much to the left, too much to the right, or the entire contraption will fall down here. In fact, here I get like, you know, little I get scared and I decide not to move around to get the green herb, because, you know, if I get the green herb, the thing will fall, and I wasn't sure if I'll take damage from falling. Because this game has some weird things where, like, you know, things that you think would damage you don't actually damage you. Bear traps are still in this game, and if you get caught in one, you actually don't get damaged. Like, you will get, like, stunned for a little bit, and, you know, if you're, like, in a really intense encounter, the enemy will probably catch up to you and, like, kill you, you know, make you take damage. But you don't actually take damage from the bear trap itself. Like, in the original game you do, but in this game you don't. And I don't exactly know why they did that. Since this is a partial no damage of the entire game, well, not a partial no damage, but like a no damage of a partial section of this game, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to get an S rank or an A rank. I definitely won't be getting an S plus rank, because in order to get an S plus rank, you have to limit your saving down to only 15 saves, and well, I'm going to save a lot more than 15. In fact, even in these first 6 chapters, I'm going to have more than 15 saves, so this video is not going to be an S plus rank of an S plus run of the game. So if you were expecting that, I am sorry to disappoint. That is just not going to happen. And I have beaten this game normally once through. And for this section, there's going to be some blue medallions, which I will be picking up. But for the beginning, I'm going to kill that guy right there. The blue medallion's right there. I'm just going to shoot it down. And well, I have beaten this entire game once through, like kind of on. There was like easy mode, standard mode, a hard mode, and then there's professional, which this no damage will be on. And you should know that the pigs here can damage you, so do not aggravate the pigs. And once you get to this part right here, there's going to be an enemy that'll pull up right here, but we just kind of like fill her up with bullets and she'll die. And how many bullets it'll take? A little random, but you know, just kind of blast her. I mean, I have enough ammunition to kind of go like crazy with it. And from here, I'm just kind of going to do a little bit loop-de-loop, get the blue medallion there, get the blue medallion there. Memorizing where these blue medallions are is a little bit annoying, I guess, but it kind of does save some time, not having to open up the map and all that. There's going to be a blue medallion here, just kind of make sure your aiming is steady and get it from there. But yeah, to backtrack to the whole S rank thing, in order to get like an S plus rank, you need to be like below 15 saves. Already going to fail that. But in order to get an S rank, you need to beat the game in under like 4 hours and 30 minutes or 4 hours. I'm not 100% sure. And the reason that I'm unsure whether I'm going to actually like beat the game with an S rank is because I'm just not sure if my run is going to be under 4 hours, because there's some really like not optimal stuff I end up doing in some of the later chapters of this game. So I think I might have actually like made my run a little bit too long already in order to like actually get to like an S rank. And also, I've been avoiding like upgrading my weapons, which also is probably going to screw me over in the long run. In this village section, not upgrading your weapons is kind of okay. You can beat the game there, but once we get to the castle, I may or may not upgrade my weapons. I'm not sure. It could really go either way. But as of right now, I just haven't. And once we get to this part, there's going to be an enemy there. And once again, fill her up with bullets, and she dies. She's, you know, you can kind of just break the window, and since she's trying to like jump over the window, you kind of have that little safety net to rely on. And here, once you jump down, an enemy is going to try and kill you. And what I'm going to end up doing is pretty much doing like a little loop-de-loop again. And I'm just really trying to run back here to get this wooden cog, which is kind of the puzzle piece which I need to get upstairs. But the reason I keep bringing up S ranks, S plus ranks, and, you know, time limits is because I need to mention something which if you're trying to get a specific time in this game, you really need to know this. Okay, so if you load your game while you're in the game, that doesn't reset your clock. You know, like this game has an in-game timer, and every time you open up the pause screen, the in-game timer is always going to be there. So if you die and load your last save, that in-game timer does not reset. The game will just keep adding time onto, like, you know, your run. In order to reset that clock, you have to actually quit the game and then load your save from the main menu, not from like a game over screen. So say you die 10 times, and every time you die you load a save file, and you know, every time you die it takes like 5 minutes, that'll add 50 minutes to your playtime. But if you die 10 times and every time you die you quit to the main menu and then load your save file, that adds no time. Like the only time that you'll get is like 5 minutes on like that 10th run. So super important that you know that if you want to stay true to, like, you know, getting a really good time, but you don't want to, like, you know, do it all in one run or relying on save. So whenever you do this little like quick time event there, you know, we have to like hold the button down. You do have iframes, but sometimes when you're done doing that action that gives you iframes, the enemy will immediately grab you. It's kind of random, so you just kind of have to hope for the best. And here, if you go on the left side, the boulders will get you. And in the original game, it would be a really obnoxious QuickTime event, but here, even if you do go on the left side, you don't have to do a QuickTime event. And okay, so these, like, whenever like one of the enemies has like a pitchfork, they have this new attack where they just immediately charge you. That they did not do that in the original game, so they made those enemies more aggressive in this game. In fact, the enemy AI is just all around a lot more aggressive. And here we're going to be I've been like avoiding using the shotgun a lot of the time, but here we're going to be relying on it because we're going to be running really fast. We're pretty much going to be like blazing through this area, you know, just like we're not going to be trying to kill enemies. We're just going to have to like knock them down to the ground so we could run straight past them. And here's there's going to be a little bit of a bear trap, so just kind of avoid that. You can kind of like run past it, but here I decided to jump the fence. This enemy gets caught in a bear trap, and you can just kind of like backstab them. And yeah, this game adds backstabs, which I really appreciate, because I don't know, usually when a game adds like semi-stealth elements, it kind of slows the game down a little bit too much. But here, like, I think the pacing, just the way the game is designed, like the newfound stealth elements don't do much. And I got really lucky that when I shot the enemy there, they got caught in the bear trap, because if they didn't, I might have gotten screwed over. And here, shoot that guy down, there's going to be a lock there, shoot the lock off, and now we're in relative safety, but just kind of keep going. And here I am immediately reminded of another game that's very similar. Like, here's where I talk about The Evil Within. It is called The Evil Within, right? Yeah, The Evil Within is a game that reminds me of Resident Evil 4 before this remake came out. And I really enjoyed that The Evil Within. I didn't like it as much as Resident Evil 4, but I did have a good time with that first game. I haven't played the second game, but in The Evil Within, that game lets you disarm like bombs or strings on them, right? And this remake decided to bring over those bombs or strings on them again, except when you disarm those like bombs, you got materials in The Evil Within. But when you disarm the bombs in this game, you don't really get anything for it aside from just disarming the bombs. It's just really weird, because this game also has a crafting system. So I don't know why they didn't carry over, you getting materials from disarming the bombs from The Evil Within when Resident Evil 4 has a really similar crafting system. It just kind of feels like a missed opportunity, especially since you're always like scrounging for like crafting materials. So just that action giving you some materials, I think, just would have been really useful and just got a good mechanic. I don't really know how it would break the game. I don't know. I really would have liked it if they just brought that over. By the way, if I ever sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, it's probably because I do not know what I am talking about, because I have not touched this game in weeks. Like, my academics have really kept me away from playing these video games. Like, oh my goodness. And speaking of video games, I'm going to mention something tangentially related to this game. On Twitter, there was this art trend where everyone kept drawing Ashley as a mouse, and it really caught on. Like, someone just made a design for it, and then it just really caught on. And I just find that really funny for this game specifically, because this game has you committing like rat genocide for like 80% of like the side quests. So you got this whole like Mousely or whatever, and she just has to fucking watch as you brutally slaughter like most of her distant relatives just so you can get a couple more spinels for the merchant. Like, I feel like that sort of art trend should have caught on with a game that doesn't have you slaughtering like rats for profit. But do what you gotta do. Like, now that I'm thinking about it, okay, so with these rat side quests where you like slaughter these rats, does Ashley ever accompany you for these side quests? I mean, I don't know. I guess throughout this run through, we're gonna find out exactly when we're doing these side quests if Ashley's accompanying us or not, because right now she isn't, because we don't meet her until like much later in the game. And yeah, right now I am trying to do one of these side quests to get some of them spinels. And while I'm talking about this, why don't we just run through some of the logistics of Mousely, okay? Like, would it be harder to protect Mousely than Ashley? Because like, it would be a smaller creature, right? So, like, I mean, in order for the enemies to actually grab Mousely, they would have to get closer to your person. And if they get closer to your person, they would die because Leon would fucking kill them. While with Ashley, since they're a much bigger target, the enemy can grab Ashley and, not be so close to you. And it would just make things a lot more complicated. And also, I will say this, though. I do think this game may or may not have made it easier to, like, combat enemies that, like, kidnap Ashley, because you could just run up to them and backstab them, and they won't do anything to you, and they will like instantly kill them. And also, like, with the way the game is kind of designed here, because in Resident Evil 4, like, areas are like very split off. Like, there's one chunk of an area, then you enter like a loading screen to load up the next part of the area. While this game goes a lot more seamless, and that is very cool. It's like, hey, next gen, like these areas are like, all seamless. There's no loading screens. Like, they are still kind of separated by doors. And whenever you enter a door, the enemies for the previous area don't follow you, but no loading screens. That is very cool. But what that means is that a lot of time enemies will just kind of like bumble around, and you can just kind of follow them wherever they go. As long as the enemy doesn't get too far away from you, you can like pretty much like rescue Ashley like all nice and good. And now I'm remembering a bit of a fucked up fact. Do you want to hear it? Here it is. Okay, so I recently learned that tarantulas can die from falling from a really high place, which is just, I never really thought about that. Like, it's a tarantula. How can it die from falling from a really high height? Like, you know, just, like, I'm thinking about this here. Like, so, like, I was told that if you hold the tarantula to, like, say, near your neck, and it falls from that height, it will die. But you know what won't die from that height? An ant or a cat. It's just, like, tarantulas just got fucked over in, like, the whole evolutionary gene pool. Like, what the fuck do you mean they die from falling? They're spiders. I thought they were supposed to be good at this. Like, Spider-Man wouldn't do that, so why is a tarantula doing it? Would Tarantula Man die from that height? Just, it's completely absurd. And I should probably actually talk about the game instead of talking about tarantulas, because there isn't even a tarantula to fight in this game, at least from what I remember. And there, I did load a save, and the lighting and filters just kind of had to adjust back to normal, but it is what it is. I would like to expand my thoughts on the crafting system, and I'm not sure if this is the right word, but I do really like how universal it is. You know, it's not like, you know, you can really specialize on exactly what sort of ammo you want to craft, just because it only really requires one material. You know, you need like the little gunpowder and either like a large or small crafting thing, and that's it. You can kind of go from submachine gun ammo to shotgun ammo. You can really specialize in exactly what you want. It's not like, oh, you need a very specific sort of thing in order to craft specifically shotgun ammo. It's not like you need a very specific thing to craft like handgun ammo. You can craft pretty much any type of ammo, with the small difference being that you either need like a small thing or a large crafting thing. So, you know, you can really play around with it and specialize into like your specific playstyle. I really appreciate that. And this section is hell on earth, but for this beginning part, we're going to pretty much camp out here in this little hidey hole, because this little hidey hole here doesn't really have any windows, so enemies can't really ambush you except through this one opening here. And it's just like, this sort of stuff is just really useful in the original game and in this game. Just any areas or little hidey holes which enemies can only enter one way, you can really take advantage of, because, you know, with other places that have like different ways to enter, like, you know, a door they can break or another window they can jump through, you have to constantly be watching out through there. They can throw explosives through those other hidey holes. Like, see, the enemies around me are trying to throw explosives into this area, but they're just throwing it on the sides of the houses, and it just doesn't affect me. So I am kind of waiting out a certain type of wave here. Like, I think there's a certain amount of enemies that I need to kill before exiting this area, and to be fair, even if you kill all the enemies that you need to kill and then you exit this little hidey hole, the more enemies are going to spawn in, so the crowds never really stop being annoying. Like, the crowds just keep coming and coming and coming. And with a sniper rifle here, you know, I'm always going for the headshots, because like 9 times out of 10 the headshot will like completely explode an enemy's head, though sometimes it doesn't, so you do have to kind of prepare for that situation. But there's like 2 dudes throwing explosives, one on the left, one on the right. You have to really take care of those dudes. And oh yeah, watch out whenever like an enemy like throws a axe, you know, that will screw you over. In the original game, if an enemy threw an axe, you could shoot it, and you can still do that in this game, but there's also the new knife parry system, which you can just parry knife attacks. And also, I've just done some really neat stuff. Like, one time I uploaded a video of this happening. Like, one time I parried like an enemy's axe throw by throwing a flash grenade like right at them at the same time, and like both things like kind of collided in the air. I just really love that. So I think I reached the point where I pretty much killed all the enemies I wanted to kill while camped out there, and now I kind of have to do like this hell run where I pretty much have to like run up here, get a certain thing, and then jump off, and then pray that when I jump off I don't get hit by an enemy, because there's like this whole thing with contextual like animations and like different camera angles and iframes that I'll get more in depth with later, but it can really screw you up. But here you have full iframes when like, you know, doing this action. So what you want to do is get really lucky and just hope that an enemy does not ambush you after you're done with that animation. But during that animation, you are completely safe. So once we've done that, I think we need to get like 2 different ammo things, and there's going to be an enemy inside this house, but if we approach him from a certain angle, we can pretty much like backstab him and just not have to deal with him. Just boom, run up on him, backstab him. Very nice stuff there. And I really hope that there isn't any other important strategies I have to mention with this area, because a lot of it is really luck based and also just patience based. Like, yeah, we need to get this little emblem, because we're going to need it to open a door later on, which, well, very soon later on. I'm actually wondering, have I picked up the other emblem yet? I think I did. So right now I think I just need to escape the area, but I'm not 100% sure about that. So while I'm not 100% sure about that, let me talk about crates. So there's a way to break crates in this game that is much faster, and also you should just be doing it more often, because this game kind of gives you a contextual action to kick open certain crates, but that animation is slower than just pressing the knife button and like knifing it immediately. You know, because if you just knife the crates, like, not only is it faster, you also like be able to move away and run away faster. Like with the kick, it's like a solid 2 to 3 seconds, and you're just kind of stuck there. So if you're really in a situation where you need to hurry the fuck up, don't do the kick, do the knife. However, there is also knife degradation in this game, so I do think that if your knife does fully break and you don't have any backup knives, then that quicker animation for breaking crates just isn't allowed. In the original game, your knife has infinite durability. Like, this whole durability thing is a new mechanic, and it is kind of neat. It does kind of call back to the earlier Resident Evils. And here we're going to be running past all the enemies, and also just run past every single bear trap. Like, the only enemy I really want to shoot is, like, this grandma, because sometimes, like, she won't attack you, sometimes she will, and that is kind of RNG based, but we're just going to get rid of that RNG and just shoot her in the face to knock her down, not exactly kill her. Like, that is something you end up doing a lot in this game. You just kind of end up in these little chase situations where you don't really want to kill enemies, you just want to slow them down, and the shotgun, most of the time, is a guaranteed knockdown. And here, we're just not going to mess with, like, most things. We're going to crouch under that explosive. The chainsaw guy's going to get blown up by it, but just keep running. Don't stop for anything, really, because you're not going to have the time to stop for anything. And then we're pretty much going to be entering the house, and there I'm checking the map because I wasn't 100% sure if I'm going the right way, because sometimes things can look a little dicey. But yeah, no, in the original game, you just knife things, so nothing much has changed, except that the knife animation here, I think, is a little bit more speedier, just feels speedier. And inside this house, there is an enemy that's kind of like hard to kill. This remake kind of introduces something similar to what... Oh yeah, also for this puzzle, just check out the exact symbols I used to open that door, and you will be able to open that door. It does not change. So I just want to talk about the merchant for like a brief second. So when upgrading your weapons in the original game, if you upgrade the original ammo count, and yeah, to avoid that zombie, just kind of lure him out to the table, just kind of run around the table to avoid him, and that will be good enough. Actually, I'm not going to talk about the merchant right now, because right now I'm going to talk about this puzzle. In my first playthrough, this new puzzle took me like 20 to 30 minutes to figure out, and I was like almost about to look up a walkthrough, but then I just miraculously found out how to do it. Because like with these sort of puzzles, there's not really any thought to it. You just kind of fiddle around with it until you understand how to fiddle with it, and then you just fiddle correctly, and then it's done. So you could either take like 5 minutes or 2 hours, depending on how good you are at fiddling around with stuff. But, you know, just follow exactly what I do in this video, and you'll just have no trouble doing the puzzle there. Okay, so now let me get back to talking about the merchant. So, in the original game, if you upgrade your ammo count for one of your guns, you get an ammo refill. So if you're empty, like for ammo for a certain weapon, you can upgrade the ammo count for that weapon and get a full clip. That is sadly not the case in the remake. They just got rid of it. So when you upgrade the ammo count of a weapon in the remake, what ends up happening is just you don't get a full clip. You still have the same amount of ammo you had before. So if you're empty with that weapon, if you upgrade the ammo count, you're still going to be empty with that weapon, sadly. So yeah, throughout this commentary, I will be comparing the original game to the remake a lot, and I mean, just for my solid opinion, I love this remake. It's a great time. I do think I slightly prefer the original game over this remake, but I really had just a blast with this remake overall, which is kind of funny considering that before this game came out, this is the one which I like wanted the least, just because like remaking the first 3 games I kind of understood because, you know, they're PS1 games, they could use the remake, but like Resident Evil 4 is like one of the most influential like third-person shooters of all time, and honestly a lot of games that come out these days just are not very different from Resident Evil 4, so remaking it just kind of seems like a lost cause, especially since I think there's a lot of elements that you won't really be able to fully recreate with the same charm, and that is still kind of true with this remake. But what I like about this remake is it also does kind of like differentiate itself enough from the original to not really replace it in any way. And well, one way it does it, one which I'm kind of sad about, is that it does kind of remove some set pieces from the original game. Like there's just some sections that just are not here, which is kind of weird, but this game also does have a few unique set pieces. Some of them are really dope, some of them are kind of whatever, but you know, it is kind of nice to have a little bit of new content, but some old content has been removed. And it is kind of weird because I think overall I like the village section better in the original game, and I could have sworn that the village section in the original game was longer, but comparing like my playthrough of these first 6 chapters, you know, like of the village section here to like my playtime of the village section in the original game, like it took me like an hour to kind of speed run no damage it in the original, while here it took me nearly 2 hours. So I guess there's more content here than the original, though it doesn't really feel like that, especially since there's like this big section that got removed near the end, which I really love, and it's just not here anymore. But there is also like this sort of section, which we're going to get to like in chapter 4, which does take up a decent amount of time. So here, I believe that a big explosion is going to happen, but right now we're just kind of like pillaging around the village and just getting some collectibles, which I just did not have the time. We just didn't feel like getting in the beginning. We got a nice compass. We're going to sell that later. Boom, see that? You see that knife attack? It's so fast. It's so quick. And you can get back to moving away from the chest, you know, so if you have to like pick something up and run, it's a lot quicker to do it. So that door, we need to enter that door. So we're just going to shoot the lock off of it from here before the big explosion happens. Boom, you see? And now we're inside here. There's a little tripwire there, which I'm going to explode. And exploding it breaks that crate. So, you know, it's like very convenient, very nice. And also, I think I was following this walkthrough that said that if you explode that wire, it might kill an enemy nearby. And by walkthrough, just, okay, let me elaborate more by what I mean by walkthrough. I have to shout out Neon Slice for his S+ rank guide, which I have been following. I don't plan on getting S+ rank, but like his speedrun strategies do help with like getting past the game. He has really good routes for certain areas, and also that is the first time you encounter a snake. I do think the snakes are less prevalent in this remake, and also I just don't think they're as dangerous as in the original game. Like, mind you, the snakes are never going to kill you, but they can definitely damage you, and that will ruin your no damage. And there is a hidden treasure there. We're going to get that. But yeah, the snakes here, they're less frequent, and whenever they do show up, they're less dangerous. Like, they're a little bit slower to attack. I mean, you still have to be quick with the knife or the gun or however you want to slaughter them, but they just aren't as quick as in the original game, so they're less of a jump scare. So, you know, yeah, you don't have to be as prepared for them, but, you know, still be ready to, like, stab them real good. But yeah, no, back to shouting out Neon Slice. But, see, his run isn't a no-damage run. It is just a speed run, you know, a speed run. So whenever he gets to a point that's like really, really combat heavy in his guide, he'll just be like, it's okay to take damage at this section. Don't worry about it. But you see, it's not okay for me to take damage at that part. So whenever those sections in his video would come up, I'd have to think up like something else in order to not take damage and get a little creative with it. Also, his video relies on New Game Plus for some stuff, and I am not. So this run, if I haven't mentioned it before, it is a new game run. It is on professional, so I can't just pull out the Thompson gun for like an easy kill in certain areas. I actually have to like try hard with like some of the new game weaponry. So, you know, just have to keep that in mind. And there you can see every single save I've made up to this point. And here I'm loading up a save once again. Okay, there was something else I wanted to mention. Oh yeah, the reason I was looking at like an S+ guide instead of say a no damage guide is because when I was playing this game, you know, when I was like at this part trying to no damage this game, there weren't really any no damage runs. Like the people who would typically no damage this game were still working on it. So I was like still working on it with them, but then I had to take a really huge break because I had to like really focus on my academics. And here I'm doing a little spinel side quest, so you know, just break those graves and you'll get some spinels. So like there wasn't really any easy no damage guides aside from like boss fights or like certain like combat scenarios, but for like the entire game no one has really done it. But then I took a break from this game, and as I'm doing the commentary right now, there's like 6 or 8 different like full game no damages, and I do feel kind of sad about that because it's just kind of like I wish I was more on the ball about this game and just my academics weren't so like pressing so I could be like one of the first people to release a no damage video, but sadly that is not the case. But fortunately for chapter 7 onward, at least there'll be some sort of guide on how to no damage those sections. So at least I know that it's possible to no damage this entire game, though I guess there will be some difficulties here and there because, you know, I'm sure like most of the guides will have their weapons like fully upgraded because right now I haven't upgraded anything. Now, I won't guarantee that like the rest of my video will be a no damage guide, but for now, I can't guarantee the rest of my video will be a no upgrade guide, but for now, no upgrades have been decent with it. And for this section, you can run past most of the enemies. Like the enemies up there, upstairs on the bridge, for some reason, the way they're coded, they're just not really going to grab you. Once you get downstairs, though, the enemies get a little bit more aggressive, but upstairs, like, typically enemies will grab you super fucking fast, but the enemies in the upstairs section of that little combat scenario just, for some reason, don't grab you really fast. And now for this upcoming section, there's going to be some dogs. So this can get really dangerous. Also, I'm going to throw a little grenade to kill out most of the crows. I do wish I angled that grenade a little bit better, but once you kill most of the crows, the dogs are going to come out. And since this dog is kind of far away, I decided to kind of, you know, try out the pistol. But once we start dealing with some of the dogs up here, the shotgun comes out. And I'm telling you, the encounter, like right now, this encounter is really dangerous. And sometimes if you take out a dog, like I mentioned, there's a new mechanic, like a new mechanic very similar to a new mechanic like introduced in the Resident Evil 1 remake, where there's certain random zombies that will be like super powered. So like when you knock them down, you either have to like knife them with like a special knife, which will really fuck up your knife durability, or you let them live and they'll like pretty much regenerate as a stronger version of themselves. And the dogs can do that, normal enemies can do that. It is a little RNG, but those zombies are very dangerous. They're harder to stun, very hard enemy, makes things a little more tense, makes things a little more random, a little more spontaneous. I think it's a good addition, and also it's kind of nice to see some additions from Resident Evil 1 remake kind of show up in this Resident Evil 4 remake. It's like, ooh, ah. Quick comment about the remake's UI. I do think it is worse than the original games. Like the original games just kind of has like this very iconic rusty vibe to all its icons. Like, you know, like the health icon, like the border around it's a little rusted. While here things are a lot more cleaner, a lot more minimalistic, but also just a lot less Resident Evil 4. Like this menu I feel could be placed in like most other games and it would fit pretty well. You know, it's like a nice little menu, but like the original game's menu just really screams Resident Evil 4, but like the UI in this game could just be kind of applied to most games. And I assume the UI was kind of made like this to kind of standardize this game more with like the new selection of remakes, because like every single Resident Evil has kind of been remade, and like they probably will be all remade. I mean, Resident Evil 2, 3, 4, like these games all have slightly similar vibes, so they're just kind of like unifying everything more with the UI, I assume. And it's a little sad, you know, just because like the original game just has more charm. You know, it is the original. But okay, so here we're in this combat section, and we're going to fall through this area, and like I do really like these little pink tones that show up throughout this game. I don't know, they look very nice. I think in some areas look a little too nice for their own good. So yeah, what I usually do here is I run past those two ladies, though it is a little RNG because sometimes one of those ladies will grab me, sometimes they won't. Like that lady really tried to grab me, but it just didn't work out. Boom, we're gonna blow that up. And okay, so there's a couple of snakes in this area, and there's this side quest where you have to like sell 3 snakes, and you can kill 3 snakes in this area specifically, or just 2 of them. But it's a little RNG whether a snake will be in the water or will be outside for you to like easily grab. So, you know, just kind of blow up that barrel. Sometimes the barrel will kill a snake, sometimes it won't. Sometimes the snake will be on the ground, you can shoot it. Sometimes the snake will be in the water, and it'll be a little harder to kind of shoot it down, because by the time you like, you know, aim correctly and kill the snake, the enemies will like be ready to kill you. Because like, I mean, what I'm doing here is really a rush strategy, so like I really have to rush through and make sure that the enemies don't crowd on me. So if the snake, which I want to kill, isn't in like an advantageous situation or like in an advantageous position to like kill very quickly, I'm not going to kill the snake and retrieve it at this time. So I mean, if you really want to get that snake, it's going to make your life harder for no damage. I mean, if I get lucky, I get lucky. If I don't get lucky, I don't get lucky. I was able to get at least 1 snake at this moment in time, and that's very nice. And yeah, once you're trying to exit this area, a lot of the enemies are going to be crowded together, so just get the shotgun to kind of get them out of the way. Also, that time where like I jumped off a bridge, sometimes the fire arrow enemy, like the little bow and arrow enemy, will sometimes kill me. Okay, whenever I get this barrel, most of the time when I get that barrel, like, it's a safe bet, you know, just get the barrel. Most of the time, you're really not going to get caught. In fact, I don't really think any of the times you're going to get hit by an enemy. Just get the barrel and you're good to go. And then, boom. I believe we are going to start the first boss fight of this run. And this boss fight is one of the easier ones, because it is a little bit more, like, guided, a little bit more contextual. You know, it is like a bit of a gimmick fight, because you have to deal with this whole new combat system with, like, you know, the spears. You're not really allowed to use most of your loadout. You don't really move the same. It is a little bit more like railroady. Though I did still have a bit of trouble no damaging this fight, because there were like a couple sections where I didn't dodge correctly, or I kind of messed up here and there. But overall, it's not too bad of a fight. I think that what's difficult about this fight is just the way the save points are spread out. So like, you know, the previous save point, it kind of like puts you in a place where you have to go either left or right, and you have to go left in the beginning in order to get the boat field, in order to get to this fight. But once you're done with like the left side, like the right side is a lot closer than where the save point was. So if you really wanted to be cheap with it, you could just backtrack to the save point and then like load up that save when you want to fight this fight. But it's just like, this fight isn't really hard enough to warrant being that cheap. So what I have to do is pretty much do like that combat scenario where you have to like pick up the boat fuel and this fight all in one go. So this fight by itself isn't too hard, especially if I can like retry over and over, but doing the combat scenario before it and this fight all in one go is what makes it difficult for me, because like sometimes like I'll mess up the left side and then I'll be like a little too stressed out when I actually get to this part, and then once I fail this part I have to repeat that entire like left side combat encounter again, and that sort of stress kind of like just messes me up. As for this combat scenario, I do think one improvement that I really like is that whenever you get hit, you don't get knocked off your boat. Because like whenever you get knocked off your boat in the original game, you have to do this really obnoxious QTE where you have to like spam a button, or on the Wii edition. It's like the Wii edition of this game is my favorite, but one thing which is worse about it compared to the other versions is that all the QTEs are just you shaking that Wii remote for dear life, and oh my goodness, that's just awful. Like, I mean, honestly, I'm still gonna give the Wii edition a 10 out of 10 for like everything else, but like those QTEs are a pain in the ass, and I'm just glad this game just got rid of all the QTEs aside from like, I mean, I don't want to consider stuff like parrying stuff with the knife a QTE. I mean, is that really a QTE? That's like a skill-based thing, you know, it's a parry. But, you know, I'm just glad this game, like, that is just a very simple, like, straightforward solution that this game brings to the table. So one thing that kind of messes me up about this fight is just that sometimes I don't know if you have to, like, turn left or turn right. And honestly, I don't even remember exactly what the strategy is. I think for most of the obstacles, you turn right, but sometimes you have to turn left. And I don't know exactly which obstacles you turn left with or which obstacles you turn right with. You just kind of have to judge it, learn it, and then go from there. But yeah, no, you just have to throw the spears, and then once you throw enough spears, this boss fight dies. You know, avoid any of these collision hazards, and then you're good to go. Like, you're free. And I guess, like, the save point distribution in this game is harder than the original game in this section particularly, because in the original game, there was a save point, like, at the house right before this fight. So, like, you could just save before this fight in the original game, but here it's not as convenient. You have to waste a lot of time to do something similar, and I'm just not going to waste that time. I might as well just do, like, combat scenario beforehand and this fight all in one go, you know, just kind of, you know, get good. I have to pretty much get good with this game, because, like, the way I did my original, like, Resident Evil 4 no damage and the no damage for this remake is I would pretty much play in between the sections, like, between save points. So I'd pretty much no damage the amount of the game that is between each save point. So pretty much I'd load a save point, I'd no damage the game up to the point where I get to another save point. Mind you, if you're going for an S plus rank, those sections are much, much larger and like much, much longer and is much harder, and I'm not doing that because I'm using a lot of saves. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Yeah, I will not be relying on any checkpoints. It will be purely through the save points, save files, typewriter, and all that. So let me talk about something tangentially related to Resident Evil 4 once again, like something which makes the remake of Resident Evil 4 less annoying than, say, the remakes of the original Yakuza 1 and 2, is that even if the remake of Resident Evil 4 ended up bad, which it didn't, it ended up really good, but if it did end up bad, the original game is still available on like nearly everything. Resident Evil 4 is like one of the most ported games of all time. There is a copy of the original Resident Evil 4 on all modern consoles, so it is available to everyone. Like, my favorite version of the original is the Wii edition because of the unique pointer controls. Like, it does make the game easier, but like, wow, it is so smooth. It gives me a gameplay feel and experience that like no other game has like really replicated for me. Like, the design of Resident Evil 4's gunplay mixed with like the Wii pointer controls is just, it's incredible, man. Like, maybe the VR version is similar to that, and I do want to play that version someday, but that shit is expensive as fuck, so that won't be happening anytime soon. Maybe if I open up a Patreon, that could be one of the stretch goals. Also, by the way, for this section, I will be sticking to the left side, and we'll pick up a red herb on the left side. Very nice. But yeah, like, overall, the best version of the game, despite my bias, is like the PC version with a certain graphics mod that just makes the game look and play incredible. Okay, here I forget what I'm going to do. Okay, so most of the time, if you stick to the right side, you should be able to avoid that enemy. And then there's going to be an enemy that kind of tries to run at you with the knife, but just shotgun blast them. And then from here, you should be home free for a certain amount of time. And be sure to get that crate. You're not in any real danger. And there I got really, really lucky with the Spinel, so I think I'm going to go for like an early save, even though you don't really have to go for the early save. I'm going to go for the early save because like whenever you get like a random Spinel, I don't even think the Spinel's not the correct pronunciation, but I like how it sounds, so I'm going to keep saying it. But yeah, to get back to the best version of the original Resident Evil 4, it is probably the PC version with that specific graphics mod, because it's just like, I don't know the exact name of that graphics mod per se, but it's a mod that takes all the original assets and just makes them HD in such a beautiful way. So like, this Resident Evil 4 original versus remake thing, it's not like a Yakuza 1 and 2 situation where the originals are stuck on their original hardware, aka stuck on the PS2, or stuck on a Japan-only PS3 and Wii U HD collection, pretty much forcing you to play the remakes of those original games, because the remakes are the only ones available on like modern hardware. Like, the remakes, you know, the Kiwamis are the only versions that are available on modern hardware. Like, please, get those original Yakuzas on modern hardware. I want them! Resident Evil 4, the original and the remake, is mostly a linear game. Mind you, even though it is linear, it does have a bit of branching paths, there is a bit of player choice here and there. But for this remake, in this chapter, this is a new addition. They decided to make the little lake section a bit more non-linear. There's a couple optional areas, and also the way you tackle these areas is left up to you. So honestly, following a sort of route for no damage is a little bit confusing, kind of depending on if you go to a certain area, you can get a certain ammo. You know, if you go to this area first, you will have an item for another area. So kind of routing all of this is a little bit more difficult. And yeah, here I am going for a bit of a cheap save just because. So for the most part, this area is really easy, but there is one part in particular that is hell on earth. So, you know, I decided to get myself a nice little save just to make things a little bit more convenient. But as for strategies, the only real, like, really important strategies is just for that, like, hell on earth area, which I believe I will be tackling first just because it is the hardest one. And then from there, I just kind of do a little bit of exploration. Maybe not the most optimal exploration. Like, I think I could have explored all the other areas a lot faster, but there is a lot of really great materials to get here. In fact, in the S Plus rank speedrun, the person I was watching, like, you know, Neon Slime, oh man, I hope I didn't forget their name so early in this commentary. They completely skipped the boat, which gives you the Red 9, which is... I'm going to try to make the Red 9 like the gun I use for the pistol I use for the rest of this video. Like, there is other pistols and they have their advantages, but the Red 9 may still be an optimal like end game pistol if you get it fully upgraded, especially if you get like the, you know, the exclusive upgrade. I just hope that's true, because I don't want to get rid of the Red 9 pistol. It'll just make it easier that I don't have to buy another pistol. So yeah, here I'm going to like backstab that one guy, and then I'm just going to run past every single other enemy in that little hallway. So I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to do the rest of this run through. That guy over there throws fire things, so I want to knock him down before he can like actually throw a fire grenade at me. Or that fire guy might be over there. No, that guy throws dynamite. So pretty much like most of this is just ignoring all the enemies and running really fast. So yeah, for this puzzle, you need to know the solution. I mean, mind you, when you're stuck at this puzzles, enemies are just kind of frozen in place. So you could just take all the time in the world if you really want. And then once I enter this little room, I'm just going to flashbang all the enemies around me and just kind of try to escape that way. And I just hope that you have flashbangs for the situation. Then from there, I'm going to jump down here and then pretty much run. So get one really tricky. And there I shot the guy with the fire grenade. And the tricky thing about those aren't fire grenades, they're like Molotovs. The tricky thing about those Molotovs is that they do have like an area of effect damage. So if you stay in like the damaging area for too long, you will take damage like in real life when you get stuck in a fireplace. So yeah, there's a lot of variables there and like a lot of ways that can go wrong. So that section is complete hell on earth and it's just terrible, but I did it, and now the rest of this section is going to be mostly really chilled out. Like, you know, it's just a lot of exploration, a lot of collecting treasures here and there, a lot of really simple puzzles. And yeah, not much is really going to happen from here on out. And here we have some secret chests that are kind of hidden in the dark. Very nice. So yeah, not much strategy to talk about. So I'm going to talk about some other stuff. So I'm not really a game design expert, but so like, you know, there's some stuff that'll kind of go over my head when I'm like playing or reviewing a game. Because the thing that really brings this thought to mind is I was watching this review of the Resident Evil 4 remake. And in that review, I believe this is the Gaming Brit review of the Resident Evil 4 remake, he brings up this thing where how reloading your weapon in the remake isn't as risky as it was in the original game. There is less of a risk-reward situation going on. And the reason because of that is that in the original game, you can't move while reloading. But in the remake, you can kind of run away and reload at the same time, so it makes the choice less important to think about, and there's less of a risk-reward dynamic. And I really would not have picked up on that. Like, that would not have been something in the back of my head when comparing these remakes, or at least I wouldn't have picked up on it easily. Like, yeah, the remake does make it that you can also move and shoot at the same time, but the remake does compensate for that by making the enemies more aggressive. But the compensation for being able to move while reloading just isn't as big as the compensation for, making the enemies more aggressive for being able to move while shooting. So what this does is that it just makes reloading less of a thing you think about. You just do it because there isn't that much of a risk to it in most situations. There is still a bit of a risk because, reloading is clunky, but compared to the original game, you just don't think about it as much. One definite improvement of the remake, well, before I talk about that, this is the ship where you get the red 9. It's just kind of like, it's just crazy that like the S plus rank speedrun just kind of skips over it. But like, I guess in the new game plus run, you don't need it. But for new game, just the red 9 is just a cool weapon. Like, yeah, it's kind of slow. Reloading takes a long time, but like it's powerful and it just looks awesome. So, I definitely want to stick with it for the rest of the game. And here I'm heading off to the island where the chicken eggs are, I believe, because there is a golden egg there, and the golden egg is necessary to collect more spinels. And also, the golden egg is also useful for defeating a certain boss fight really quickly, which is not in this video, but it will be in the next video, though the golden egg I collect from this area won't be used for that boss fight. I'll have to do another side quest to get that golden egg for that boss fight, so I'll have to see how well that works out for my routing and no damaging. But yeah, one definite improvement of this remake over the original is just the on-the-fly weapon switching. Like, the original game did not allow you, like the original Resident Evil 4 didn't allow you to like switch between your weapons immediately. You had to like open up your inventory, manually select the weapon, and only then you can switch the weapon around. And like, I don't mind it too much. I still think the game's a masterpiece, but being able to like switch between 4 to 5 to 6 different weapons on the fly like that is definitely an improvement. And like the way it works in this game still has a little bit of, I don't want to call it jank, but you do have to kind of like open, like sometimes there'll be tricky situations. You have to like open up the inventory and kind of like select how you want the weapons to be formatted in like your little like quick select wheel, because sometimes the game formats it in a way that just isn't appealing to me. So you kind of have to fiddle around with that, but it is still a definite improvement over the original. But if I am going to complain about something with the remake, I think that the remake gun feel is fantastic still, but I don't think it's as punchy as the original games. Like, I think there's like multiple factors that decide into this, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to fully describe all those factors, but when I shot an enemy with a shotgun in the original, and like their entire head gets blasted apart like a watermelon, nothing beats that. And like that does still kind of happen in the remake, but just not as frequently. Like, stunning enemies with your weapons has just been made like a little bit harder, especially on the hardest difficulty here in the remake. Like, you can still stun an enemy with your pistol for like a melee takedown in the remake, but it's just less satisfying, and it's just like not as like, I think, consistent. Like, part of it is like part of what makes the melee takedowns like less satisfying in this game is that like the melee attacks just aren't as useful this time around. They don't knock the enemy back as much, and the crowd control is less useful. And you don't really have your iframes anymore. Like, just there's less iframes to it. It like knocks the enemy back less, and I think it deals less damage. Maybe, not 100% sure about that one. And one thing which I'm not sure about is I'm not even sure if you can like blast apart an enemy's head with your melee attacks. Also, by the way, what I'm doing here, I'm doing the big fish side quest. If you go to this specific part of the map, you can like spear this really big fish, and then you can sell this big fish to the merchant to get more spinels. Also, I guess one cool thing you can do in this game is that you can send a lot of your inventory to storage. So if you really, really want something, you can just send a lot of your stuff to storage, get the thing, and then once you get to a save point, you can get back those weapons. So you don't have to discard weapons to pick up new weapons. Does that kind of like simplify the risk reward system? Maybe, but I think it's a neat addition. Okay, so let me get back to suplexing enemies. So yeah, like I just like in the original game, you can like suplex an enemy with one of your like contextual melee attacks, and their head would explode open like a watermelon. But once again, I have to repeat that just does not happen frequently in the remake. Like, whenever you do a melee attack, does their head even blast apart? I don't think that's ever really happened to me. Maybe it does happen and it just doesn't happen as frequently, and that's like the thing we really have to mention. It doesn't happen frequently in the remake, while in the original it would happen like every like 3 out of 5 enemies, you just blast their head open with a melee attack. So like on that level, I think the combat feedback in this remake is slightly off when compared to the original, but don't get me wrong, it still feels great to play. I just think there's a lot of little details about that original game that just are not as satisfying in this like in the remake's like translation of those mechanics. So just like with the bear traps, if you crash your boat into like one of these walls, you don't take damage. So if you want to do a no damage run and you accidentally crash into a wall, nothing to fear, you'll be just fine. But yeah, no, this little section, like, I don't know, just since I've seen the movie recently, it kind of reminds me, and okay, so here we returned here to kind of shoot some of the blue medallions. As for if there's a better route to like, be quicker with shooting the blue medallions, I don't exactly know what route that is. I just kind of, I saw there were some blue medallions here, so I decided to visit this area just to like kind of knock that off my bucket list. And hey, we're also getting some materials while we're here. But yeah, no, just kind of like riding my little boat across this very dark lake. Kind of reminds me a lot of the movie Beau is Afraid, Ari Aster's recent 3-hour very indulgent panic attack. And I've seen the film twice. The first viewing was honestly kind of confusing. The movie has a bit of an unsatisfying structure. Like, there was a lot to really like about the movie, but I don't know, something about it was just kind of off. I don't know, like the humor wasn't that funny. The structure was a little unsatisfying. Some of the payoffs I don't think really fully aligned if you were expecting certain things. I was also a little inebriated while watching that first viewing, so I was kind of like on the same page as Beau. I was just very fucking confused and slightly afraid. But then I went to go see it a second time, just a little bit more sober, a little bit more in focus. And I really did come to like the movie a bit more. Just like, I think I liked the movie on my first viewing. I just was a little unsure about certain things. But on the second view, I started to, see a lot of those little motifs pop up more. And I noticed them a bit more. I think now that I knew how the movie was structured, it wasn't like as unsatisfying. I kind of knew where the movie was going, what it was trying to do. Like, I do still think there's a couple things that are a little off about the movie, but I do think I really like it, though. It is really like a 3-hour panic attack, so it is a very fucking stressful movie. So it never stops being stressful. So, if you are going to watch the movie, it's not really for the faint of heart. It's kind of like Uncut Gems, but for betas, if that makes any sense. Okay, but as for Ari Aster's other 2 movies, Hereditary and Midsommar, I did see both of those movies when they first came out. And like I'm telling you, I really am wasting a lot of time in this section just because of like those blue medallions. Like I don't know exactly where they are, so I'm actually like trying to find them. So if you route this better, you can save a ton of time. Because like right now, I really am wasting so much time doing this, but I really want to do the blue medallions. Like, I mean, the blue medallions, I think I'm going to try to do every single blue medallion side quest just because, like, they really call to me. Like, the blue medallions are just so pretty in this game. Like, they're pretty in every single Resident Evil, like, game. I don't know if the blue medallions existed before the original Resident Evil 4, but like in the original Resident Evil 4, I always wanted to shoot the blue medallions because they're awesome. They give me like a nice little reward. And mind you, the blue medallions only showed up twice in the original game, while here they're more spread out across the whole game. So, as for the other side quests, they're kind of hit and miss. I don't really feel compelled to do most of them, but whenever a blue medallion one shows up, like, I want to do it. And I think that's definitely going to be a little challenging for me later on, especially with some of the more challenging areas. But I'm going to try to do every single blue medallion, like, side quest. But yeah, to get back to, like, Hereditary and Midsommar, or Midsommar, however the fuck you pronounce it. When I first saw those movies, when they came out, like, I thought they were perfect. I gave them 10 out of 10s. Like, I really love those movies. But I really should rewatch them because I'm not really sure if I'd give them 10 out of 10 these days. Like, I'd probably still really like them. I don't think I'm going to end up hating any of those 2 movies. In fact, I'm pretty sure those 2 movies are probably still better than something like Beau is Afraid. Just because, like, those 2 movies, they are a little bit more traditional. They do kind of stick more to, like, standard, like, genre conventions and all that, like, with the horror genre and stuff. I'm actually a little unsure if I'll like those movies better than Beau is Afraid. Because, like, Beau is Afraid, see, there we go. Once I return to this area, I got to shoot the second snake. Yeah! But yeah, no, with Hereditary and with Midsommar, I really liked them. With Hereditary, I saw that on an airplane. Kind of a weird fucking way to see that movie. I really should watch it on, like, an actual, like, good screen. As for Midsommar, I actually got to see the extended cut in a theater because a local college I know was showing that off. I'm getting a slight tinge of deja vu here. I feel like I've mentioned the extended cut of Midsommar in the college theater in a previous video, but I'm mentioning it again. So yeah, there's your little review. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do it soon, but at some point I do want to rewatch Hereditary Midsommar. As for rewatching Beau's Afraid, I don't know about that one. It is 3 fucking hours long. And frankly, I don't know if the film should be 3 hours long. Like, it is a very indulgent film. It goes on like tangents, and a lot of those tangents are pretty cool, but like they don't really feel that connected to like the pace of like the original. So like the pace is kind of like, you know, it goes up and down, and I don't really mind that too much, but it is a little strange. But yeah, no, overall, like, I mean, I do really like his 3 films. They're all shot really nicely. They're beautiful looking films. But yeah, I don't know where to continue with that thought. So yeah, here I'm also taking another detour, just like in Beau's Afraid, and I'm doing the shooting range. And there is a specific reason why I'm doing this, and I'll explain that. Oh, I'll explain it now. So this game added some cosmetics that you can like apply to your briefcase, which give you like passive bonuses, like, oh, enemies will drop more of this type of ammo, or you'll deal more damage with this, so on and so forth. And the one which I want is the one that makes like the rocket launcher like cheaper to buy, because I'm going to be relying on the rocket launcher to kind of like bypass certain boss fights. And well, the way that you unlock these cosmetics is by pretty much playing this slot machine, and the ammunition you need is pretty much gained from like doing these shooting ranges things, like doing really well on these shooting ranges. You get like these silver coins, these gold coins, and pretty much, oh, I think I'm trying to get all the death medallions, and I failed, but I got an S rank, which will give me a gold coin. I don't know exactly how many gold coins. It'll give me a gold token, one of them. So pretty much, if you get a lot of silver and gold tokens, you can kind of like play around with the slot machine and then get like a bunch of like little dudes to put on your briefcase, and gives you a lot of little bonuses. So right now I'm going to do all of the shooting range stuff available to me at this point in time, because the shooting range will show up again later in the game. And then, you know, once I get there, I'll be able to do more of them and get more coins, so on and so forth. And, you know, it is good because pretty much I'm going to be relying on the rocket launcher to skip certain boss fights. And also, like in the original game, instead of upgrading my weapons, I would just buy the rocket launcher in order to just like skip certain boss fights. I just like use the rocket launcher and it just like one hit kill them. So, you know, it's kind of like a speed running thing, right? But what's fucked up about this like little slot machine thing you can play with is that I thought it would be like complete RNG. So I thought that if I like reloaded my save over and over again, I'd be able to get the thing I want eventually. But that's not exactly the case. Like, there is a bit of RNG, but like once you're locked into like a save, like the RNG stops being RNG, and you're guaranteed to get certain things when you play the slot machine. In fact, I'm not even sure if it's like, if it even is RNG. You might just be locked into getting certain items just on a direct path. And for some reason, my game has just decided that, no, you're not going to get the fucking rocket launcher things. Like, I spend all my tokens in this slot machine. I spent them in, like, a variety of ways. Because, you know, if you use all silver tokens, you get certain things. If you use 2 silver tokens and 1 gold token, you get a certain thing. If you use all gold tokens, you get a certain thing. So it's just like, there's a lot of little different combinations to getting different things. And if you want strategies on how to do really well at this like shooting range thing, I don't really know how to explain it. It's been a while since I played this game. I hope my footage can kind of speak for itself. I'm not exactly a master at aiming, but I seem to be doing pretty decent. I mean, I'm getting S ranks on these things, you know. You just have to be aware about certain things. Like, for example, here it gets really fast, and you kind of have to like go. There comes a point where we have to go to the left and not let this guy get to the middle, because, you know, if you shoot him when he's at the middle, the other guy shows up too fast, and like there's like one where the enemies show up really fast, and then there you have to get the pistol, because if you use the sniper rifle at this part, the sniper rifle can penetrate 2 targets. The pistol does not penetrate 2 targets, and there I accidentally shot one of the targets. But hey, bonus time, let's get into it. And the bonus times help a lot with getting more points, but the conditions for bonus time do vary between different shooting ranges. Sometimes you have to take out all the enemies, sometimes you have to get like a certain score. You know, it just kind of depends. You just read those instructions and definitely practice a lot. But yeah. So yeah, I spent my tokens a variety of different ways, and then like no matter which path I took with my tokens between silver and gold and all those different combinations, it never gave me the rocket launcher like add-on. So I really wanted the rocket launcher add-on because I'm gonna buy it right now. Now, thankfully, selling all my items in a strategic manner does give me enough money to buy the rocket launcher at its normal price, but for like future encounters, I really need that rocket launcher to be cheaper. So like, I mean, I'm gonna keep doing these shooting ranges as they pop up until I can unlock that little rocket launcher add-on. And like, I'm sure there's other add-ons to the briefcase that are super useful. I'm just not exactly aware of them right now, or like which ones would suit my playstyle specifically. But for right now, I really desperately need that rocket launcher add-on. And right now, you may think I'm heading to the boss fight. Nope, I'm just heading up here to collect all the treasure in order to be able to sell enough stuff to get the rocket launcher. And now that we're here, I might as well talk about something tangentially related. So there's something different happening with the iframes and the contextual actions in the remake when compared to the original. Like something the original would do whenever there's like a contextual action, like say jumping out of a window, the camera angle would change to like a more cinematic view. And that doesn't happen in the remake. The camera stays right behind you when you do these actions to make it feel more like gameplay instead of like a temporary cutscene. Another thing to factor in mind about that is that when those camera shifts happened in the original, you would have full iframes because you didn't have control of the character. In the remake, you don't have full iframes when you do these actions, so sometimes when you do a contextual action like jumping off of something, an enemy can hit you during that animation. It's some crazy stuff, and it does make some no damages very frustrating because you think you got away and then suddenly an enemy like hits you with a knife just as you're jumping off. When you're like in midair, the enemy actually makes contact with your body and you take damage. Like that stuff is infuriating. Also, I will say, I do think I've been a little bit too liberal with my spinel spending because what I realize is I don't necessarily have to upgrade my Red 9. I could just buy the upgrade ticket to get like to boost my attack by like 1.5 multiplication or 1.5x or 1.5 times. I don't know exactly how to say it, but if I just get the upgrade ticket for the Red 9, I can make that weapon super powerful without necessarily upgrading every single other thing about it and like wasting a lot of money that way, because not upgrading your weapons lets you save a lot of money, and you can use that money to buy more rocket launchers for easy skips in really difficult sections.
Thank you. Thank you. Gaming's pleasant.
So beforehand, I was like, straight dogging on this game's UI, but one new thing about the UI which I really like is that you can get different briefcases, right? And these different briefcases give you some passive bonuses, like certain briefcases let, make red herbs appear more often, so on and so forth. Kind of like those little cosmetic things you can add onto the briefcase. There's like new briefcases which in themselves also have passive bonuses. And whenever you get a new briefcase, it changes how, your menu looks. So there's like a red briefcase, and when you get that briefcase, your entire briefcase is super red because it's a red briefcase. I really like that. Now, mind you, there aren't really that many briefcases with like, really out there colors like red. It's all mostly like black, gray briefcases. So maybe this little compliment isn't as complimentary as I would have liked. That maybe I would have liked a blue briefcase. Yellow, I'm not a fan of yellow, but I know someone out there would really like a yellow briefcase. A green Kiwami briefcase. Ooh, oh no, that might be a little scary. But yeah, no, I do like that they do kind of change up how your inventory looks. I think it's really neat. So yeah, just like in my original like Resident Evil 4 like no damage, I also used the rocket launcher to skip this guy, and in the remake I'm doing the same, so it's very nostalgic. And also using the rocket launcher to skip that fight does allow me to hoard a ton of ammo. So yeah, look at all these materials I have, look at all the knives I have, look at all the crafting materials I have to make more flash grenades. I'm just stacked for the next sections of the game. So whenever you skip a part where the game expects you to like expel a ton of ammo, well, you can just, if you find a way to skip that section with like a rocket launcher or something else, you just get to keep all that ammo, so it's just great. So yeah, for the next save point, I pretty much have to like go back and recollect all my weapons, because right now all I have is a pistol and a submachine gun. So at this exact moment, I believe that like there's a couple dangerous dogs I have to watch out for, but those dogs can be like mitigated with like a flash grenade here, flash grenade there. And there's like this one slightly annoying puzzle. The puzzle was also annoying in the original game, but here it's been like slightly changed, so it's not exactly the same as in the original game, but it's still kind of like equally as annoying. And while we're doing this sort of backtracking here in this raining setting, there was something else I wanted to mention, and I'm not exactly sure what it was I was going to mention. Well, I forgot what I was going to mention. I mean, right now I'm just collecting all the crates I didn't break before because I was rushing through this area, because right now there's no enemies to pretty much like destroy me while I'm hunting in this area. And look at that, another snake. We got an extra little snake. And these snakes, you can eat them, you can sell them, but since I'm not going to take damage, they're only going to be used for monetary gain. But yeah, on my left here, I have this Greek yogurt. I have a Chobani Greek yogurt, coffee, and cream. And I'm going to try it for the first time. So yeah, I believe in this part of the game, we get introduced to the dogs with the brain worms. I mean, we got introduced, in the beginning of this chapter, we got introduced to normal enemies with brain worms. And this gets kind of confusing because there's the regular zombies, then there's like the zombies which are like, they regenerate stronger, and then there's the third type of zombies, which is the zombie with the brain worms. And I think the brain worms, one really cool thing about the brain worms in this game is that you can parry the blades, because like these brain worms have like this really bony blade thing that they can hit you with, and you can parry it with your knife if you're really good at the game. So just the knife parrying system is just such a nice addition to this game. I really love it. But yeah, anyway, so this is the first time I'm going to be trying this yogurt, so I'm going to see if I like this flavor and just this brand in general. So let's check this out. Yep, I gotta say, this gets a positive recommendation for me. Also, I lied. This is not the first time I tried this yogurt. 5 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago was actually the first time I tried this yogurt because I was on the phone with my mother, and I had to give the review to my mother first before I gave the review to my YouTube channel. So yeah, right now here, I'm just kind of getting back all the weapons I want. However, I'm kind of in a dicey situation where my inventory is so packed, I can't have my rifle back. And I believe in these upcoming sections that I don't really need my rifle, but look at all those knives. It's amazing to have all those knives, and hoarding all those knives will be really useful for a certain very parry-heavy boss fight. But yeah, no, for right now, my inventory is just absolutely stacked. There's a couple things I really should use up or get rid of or just kind of sort around, because I do need the rifle for later sections of this, game, and I'm going to need the rifle all the time around. Well, actually, no. In this video, I do end up selling the rifle. Oh, yeah. There was something I wanted to mention before. There was two things, actually. So, one, I remember mentioning that the pigs can damage you, right? After the first village fight, there's pigs, and if they run into you, they can damage you. But they're also your friends, because I got, in my first playthrough, I got into some pretty dicey situations with the enemies, and since everything was so stressful, the pigs got stressed out and started running over the enemies, knocking them down to the ground. So, while the pigs can damage you, they can also damage the enemy. The second thing I wanted to mention is this game has a new weapon. It's the crossbow, and I have been avoiding it this entire time. Even though it is probably one of the best new weapons, it just scares me. I don't know, the way ammo works with it is just kind of weird. It's a very scary weapon. It's if you shoot the ammo, you can retrieve your ammo, but there's certain things where you can't retrieve your ammo, and you can attach explosives to the ammo. I just really need to get good with understanding it. And for this puzzle here, you just have to line up certain pieces of the glass together in a certain way. And you just kind of have to do that for these three little sections. And once again, just like with the door puzzle in I think chapter 2, it's all about just fiddling around until you get it. So on your first run through, you could be here for either 5 minutes or 2 hours, depending on how much of a struggle you have with just fiddling around with things. In fact, I don't think I fiddle around with this perfectly. Did you see how the red part aligns perfectly with the bottom part of that golden little symbol? That's kind of how you figure out the rest of the parts. Just see where the blue lines up with the golden symbol, mess around with that, and that's how you solve the puzzle. Not too hard, but if you could get stuck on it if you fiddle around in the wrong way and get too deep in fiddling around with the wrong way. Or if you just don't see the vision, not a very hard puzzle, but a little bit time consuming if you're not prepared for it.
Ashley.
So here is our first introduction to Ashley, and spoiler alert, she is not a mouse. And in this game, in this remake, they changed up her look a bit. Like her model is based on a real life person, so you know, you look at Ashley in this game, it's like that looks like a person. And then you look in real life, and it's like that person exists, except she does not look exactly the same, because even if you like, you know, mocap a person into a video game, there's gonna be like slight differences because these games are not reality. But yeah, no, I'm just remembering. So yeah, she's not a mouse in this game, right? But I think another reason why the whole mousely trend like took off so like big is because in the original game she kind of looks like a mouse because she has fucking big ass ears. Fucking ears are gigantic in the original game, and they got rid of them in the remake. So in the remake she looks less like a mouse, but the original actually she is a complete mouse. And okay, I might be wrong on this, but I believe that the voice actress of the original Ashley is Sandy Cheeks. You know what Sandy Cheeks is? A squirrel. But you know what a squirrel looks like? A mouse, dude. She's a complete mouse in the original game. But here, not so much. She kind of holds her own a little bit more. And in her section's a little bit longer. She kind of has to like fight a bit more. Though there was this really funny glitch. I don't know if it was a glitch or someone just hijacking the game, but there was this glitch in the original GameCube version where Ashley could actually suplex the enemies. She can't do that in this game, but she kind of gets a lantern that freezes the enemies, and that's a whole different discussion for when I actually get to that point in the video. But yeah, no, abandoning the crossbow probably isn't the best idea because, you know, it's a really useful weapon, and boom, grenade. So we knife the one guy there, we grenade this guy here, and then we run through these graves and hope for the best. Like, really, really hope that none of the enemies grab Ashley or grab me. And then, boom, there's another enemy there. We're going to throw another grenade. And I really stockpiled on the grenades. Like, I have so many grenades. So, yeah, no, Ashley is a really iconic escort, like, mission. You know, she's one of the most iconic. And some people really complain about her because in the original game, she screams loud as fuck. But you know me. If you've seen my Kiwami rant video, you'll know that I don't dislike when people scream loud as fuck. In fact, not only am I not against it, I respect it. So I respect Ashley screaming her fucking lungs out in the original game. And she does still scream in this game, but, you know, she was a lot more shrill in the original. But, you know, the escort mission, like, she's a really good escort mission in the original Resident Evil 4. Like, I mean, she did make things a bit more challenging, but, like, in a pretty fair way. Like, if Ashley, like, got captured, like, most of the time, that was on you, really. Like, any issue, like, Ashley had in the original game when it comes to, like, gameplay could really be traced to, like, the player's skill level, not so much in, like, bullshit. Like, it was a really well-designed escort mission, and whenever the game got, like, a little too hard, there would always be, like, a convenient dumpster where you could just kind of, like, dump her in there, and the enemies would never get her, and it'd just be, like, it was just a really good escort system. I mean, you know, screaming aside and all that. And in this game, like, that's still mostly true, but there's been a few changes. For one, she doesn't have her own health bar. Like, she kind of runs on a Call of Duty system where... a Call of Duty's like zombie system where she gets knocked down and then you have to kind of revive her, and if you don't revive her in time or if she gets hit again, she dies permanently. And, you know, whenever she gets kidnapped, it is kind of easier to rescue her, because, like, in the original game, if she got kidnapped and an enemy got to, like, one of the exit points of the level would just end. But in this game, since levels aren't, like, since the entire game is seamless, that isn't really true anymore. So right now what we're doing is we're backtracking to, like, the big house with the big dumb, like, ball puzzle in order to pick up a few things. However, going back to the house also activates the killer dog side quest. So one of the cool side quests they add in this game is that, you know, it could be something lame like killing a couple rats, but sometimes you'll get, like, a mini boss fight. So one of the mini boss fights you can fight like early on here is that there's a dog that's just hard as fuck to kill. We are not going to kill that dog, but I do want to get some of the treasures in this area, which are only accessible once you're with Ashley, because Ashley can lower the ladder. No, Ashley can pretty much, like, piggyback off of you, grab onto the ladder, lower it, and then you get to climb the ladder. You can't do this by your own, so, you know, just a nice little bit of backtracking incentive. And yep, we're going to collect some treasures. We're going to collect the camera, but we're not going to fight the dog. We're going to skip the dog entirely. I think one other reason why splitting these videos up is a good idea. I mean, like, you know, the academics, you know, I was busy with stuff and I didn't want, like, you know, to not release any like meaty content for like the next month or two. You know, instead I wouldn't release any meaty content for like the next 3 weeks. But another reason why I think splitting these videos up is a good idea is because doing commentary for a 4-hour video is exhausting. Like, I don't know, the only times I've done it is for like Resident Evil 4 and for Metal Gear Solid, like the Phantom Pain, where I had to split that video up into 3 parts, but those 3 parts were all 4 hours each. And man, that was a really fun video. Like, I don't know, honestly, I kind of want to do a Roblox version of the Phantom Pain, but I haven't seen any mods that turn, like, you know, Solid Snake into a Roblox character. And pretty much my idea for like a Roblox version of that game in particular is, instead of doing all the objectives in a mission, I just do like a speedrun S rank for every single mission. And I don't know, I've seen some people do it and it would kind of lower the mission, you know, length from, say, fucking 12 hours to maybe 3 to 4 hours instead. Like, it'd be fun, but also I think I should probably just play new games instead of replaying old games. And if I am going to do Roblox versions of games, I'll stick with the Yakuza games until I do all of them. I still have to do Lost Roblox and Ishin Roblox. And there was another Roblox I had to do. I don't know. I think those are kind of the big 2 ones. And then there's going to be Gaiden Roblox. But I'll do Yakuza Gaiden first. And also, I have to do Ishin normally. So there is also that. And like, okay, so let's talk about something else. So one thing which I really love about the Remake's graphics, I mean, it's a very graphically beautiful game. Like, first off, these weather effects, like this wind effects here. So, okay. We're going to run up here, we're going to throw a flash grenade, we're going to hope for the best. Sometimes the wolf will get a little too aggressive when we get to this point. Oh, a glitch actually happens here. Check this out.
Hi there. Hi there. Hi there. Hi there.
Hi there. It just keeps repeating. Like, I don't know, I just broke his script and he's just like completely like just brain dead and has to keep repeating it. Yeah, I'm just really glad I have a bunch of flash grenades and just normal grenades. And this can be kind of random because sometimes enemies won't drop grenades. Maybe sometimes the crates won't drop grenades. Or maybe you'll waste all your grenades on the El Gigante fight and you won't be able to save them, like I am saving them right now. And the funny thing about this save point in particular is that it is right next to an enemy, so there is maybe a chance that you'll be locked off of it. I mean, even when I load my save point, I immediately get locked off from saving. Look, there's an enemy right here. So the strategy is to pretty much like run around this enemy, and sometimes the enemy will grab you or Ashley, kind of screwing up the strategy. And hey, the pigs returned. The pigs actually helped me out when things got really stressful here. So I guess I wasn't so much referring to the pigs before, I'm referring to the pigs now. And then here, kind of drop that enemy, drop a flash grenade there, and then we get to run over here. And once we run over here, we're about to enter the next section of probably one of the hardest sections of the game. And here I decided to look back to do a bit of a cinematic view, but honestly, I should have done it a bit earlier. Okay, so Luis, they made a big change to this section in this game. Pretty much, in the original game, when Ashley shows up, Luis is like, wow, what epic boobs you have. And he doesn't say that in the remake anymore, and some people got mad about that. I'm neutral on it, but one thing which I do have to mention is that Luis is just a better character overall in this remake. Now, this remake, I think one of the worries people had about this remake is that the original Resident Evil 4 is very goofy, it's very campy. I mean, you maybe say that about all the Resident Evils, but Resident Evil 4 was a little bit more self-aware about it. Like, you know, Leon's just dropping a lot more sassy one-liners. Like, the game is just more aware about how stupid it is. Also, I have to mention something, but I kind of wrote it in my notes. Let me just open up my notes real quick, just to be more exact about what's going on here. So, alright, so there's this glitch that pretty much lets you skip the entire fight in the cabin in Chapter 5, because we are in Chapter 5 right now. However, in order to be able to do this glitch, you have to be able to hold down the left trigger and hold down like the control stick for 8 to 10 minutes, and believe me, that shit hurt my hand. Like, my hand muscles were like tensing up, and it was just incredibly excruciating. Just be holding down on that control stick without like letting go, because once you let go, you know, pretty much you pop out of the wall and the enemies like grab you and you die. But I'm just surprised that this glitch still works. I really hope that they don't patch it out, because if they do patch it out, then this entire section of my video is worthless and you won't be able to, you know, do it. I'm pretty sure Luis can die in this section, because I'm pretty sure it happened to me once in the remake. I'm not sure if that's true in the original, but like one thing I know is that In the original game, if you shoot Luis too much, he'll just shoot you back and kill you, and he'll be like, "Ay pendejo, chinga tu madre," you know, like he'll just do that. I'm not sure if he does that in this game. I think he does the same thing, but he can't just straight up die. But if you do this glitch, he doesn't die. I guess because the enemies are too fixated with looking at your little like ghostly ability to enter a wall. And yeah, pretty much the way you do this glitch is pretty much like positioning yourself near that wall, aiming down at the ground, and if you do it right, you'll end up in this little corner here. You just keep holding down, as even though it will hurt your hand very much, like your thumb, you're gonna get like just carpal tunnel like early on. But yeah, no, to get back to some of the previous things I was talking about, because we're going to be here for a while. We pretty much have to be inside this wall for 11 to 15 minutes. And there's like 2 cutscene breaks in this game. So there's a cutscene will happen where the enemies will like throw up, some ladders. So you'll have to insert yourself into the wall again when that happens. And then there's going to be a second and final cutscene to this little action set piece where the Big Piggy Man comes in. And the Big Piggy Man is a new enemy in the remake, and I like him. He's cool. But yeah. To get back to pretty much my worry with the remake is that pretty much the original game is goofy, but the remakes have been going for a more serious tone. Like 2 and 3 are a little bit more gritty, you know, like they have more realistic graphics, so they're not as goofy as the original games. So 4 is going to get a bit of a similar treatment, but if you take out the goofiness from 4, you do lose a lot of that game's charm, because, you know, just like Leon's always throwing these sassy one-liners, you know, like Ashley's like, you know, like you got like Salazar, you know, like the little Napoleon, like small dude, and he has these fucking ridiculous like radio calls with you. Like, if you take all of that out, you are kind of taking like what makes 4 such like an iconic experience, at least part of it, you know, because 4 is an amazing game. It's not just one thing that makes it amazing, it's just a blend of so many other great things. It's not just the goofiness, it's also like the great atmosphere, you know. You could go on and on about how great 4 is. And what this remake does with the tone is that it just kind of it goes for a middle ground of sorts. It is more serious, you know, like characters like aren't as goofy as before, but there is a little bit of goofiness left in there. You know, Leon, he gets to say the bingo line. Salazar is still like a little bit campy, like, you know, and Luis gets to have a couple fun one-liners, though the tone overall is a bit more serious. And some of the more goofy set pieces have been removed. But honestly, some of the replacements are also kind of goofy, but I guess they're like goofy in a less fun way. I'll get to that when we get to that. But yeah, no, overall the game is a little more serious. It is like generally it is better written than the original. The original isn't exactly the best written game ever. It is a very goofy like video gamey story, and there's like certain like character introductions that come the fuck out of nowhere. So this game pretty much like smooths things out. It gives like pretty much each character a bit more of a character arc, and like pretty much Luis is the best example of this. Like the changes they've made to his character just make him more well-rounded. He like in the original, he dies pretty early on, so you know he's like a neat character. He does something cool and then he just fucking dies. While here he gets to stay longer with you. He gets to help you out with more boss fights, and then when his death does come, it's more impactful. It's placed in like an area that's like a little bit more emotional. His death scene is just a little more personal, and the way like the characters talk about Luis for the rest of the game just makes everything come together. You know, it's also like this game has a new moment which is like kind of emotional. You know, like they did Luis really well in this game. He's like the best like he's like the best thing the remake has done with like the new changes to characters and stuff. But then you get to, okay, so you got like the big cheese of the village section. You know, he doesn't really do much. I mean, no, he does a lot, but you know, he's just like the big cheese. So like whatever changes they made to his character, he's practically the same. Salazar, I definitely prefer him in the original. Just like I just like his outfit better. I just kind of like his getup, and they also removed a couple more of. Okay, see, you have to enter the wall again when this happens, a little cutscene break. So while this game does tend to put Leon, you know, they always keep the camera behind him for most of the game, but they do have the cutscene breaks every now and then, just not as much as the original game. So yeah, I do prefer Salazar in the original game, but I do really like some of the changes the remake brought, because one thing the remake did is that, you know, with the new graphical prowess, they made him look more disgusting. They gave him like this really puffy hairdo, kind of like those old wigs, like the old like colonizers would wear or something. I don't know if that's correct, but they gave him a new look, and I do kind of like this new look. You know, his face is more fucked up looking. I mean, like his face was pretty fucked up in the original, but I guess the low poly didn't make it seem so apparent. They kind of changed his outfit to resemble some like a different aspect of like the colonialism, I guess. I don't know. And I really like what, I mean, I guess I'll talk more about Salazar when we get to that section of the video. As for the main bad guys, okay, Salazar, that's like Napoleon. Sadler, okay, Sadler's the big bad of all. I think he's worse in this game. I don't know. In the original game, like he was also kind of the weak link of all the villains, and that's still true in this game. Like in this game, they play him a little bit more seriously. So like while he was the weak link in the original, he was like kind of like more like funny in the original too. While here he's like played more po-faced, and like his whole big motivation is just a little bit more boring now. And here comes the piggy man. There he is. Wait, hold on. He's not a piggy man. He's a bull man. The thing he's wearing on his head, that's more like a cow or like a bull. That's not a pig at all. I still want to call him the piggy man though, because there are pigs in this game. Actually, we should probably get a better look at him. But he is going to come up here, and he's not going to do anything. He's just gonna continue running into me. And as you can see, the revived like red zombie or whatever that gets stronger and doesn't get knocked back as easily, he tends to run into you in the wall, but he just can't do anything because you're in the wall. And the enemies will try to like push you out of the wall, and that's why you have to constantly be pushing the control stick down. And also, not only are you pushing the control stick down, you're constantly holding down the aim button, which is the left trigger. So you're holding down the left trigger and the control stick down. So that's what makes your hand hurt so much. It is very infuriating. So yeah, Leon, he's not as sassy as he was in this game. He's got a little bit more of a character arc. You know, he's dealing with like PTSD. You know, he's like more emo now. But, you know, he cracks the little occasional iconic one-liner every now and then. And, you know, Ashley, once again, she's played a little bit more seriously. Like, I don't know, in the original game, she kind of acts like a frightened schoolgirl, while here, she kind of acts more like a college student. She's a bit more calm and, like, collected. And also, Ashley kind of goes through a bit more of an arc. You know, like, Ashley, instead of, like, just being, like, the high school girl with a crush, she's more, like, you know, becoming part of the team, getting better at defending herself, you know, like, a little bit more serious, a little bit more down to earth. Like the game's story still has some weird points. There's like the one really famous guy, Krauser, but we don't get to Krauser until like the final video in like this 3-part series, which I'm going to be doing. So I guess I'll talk more about Krauser when we get to there, because, oh yeah, I mean, I did want to mention, yeah, oh yeah, the whole 4-hour thing. Yeah, I definitely don't want to make another 4-hour video, because that's going to be a lot. Because I mean, this video is an hour and 55 minutes, and like I'm already running out of stuff to say. And now that I mentioned that, I want to mention, I want to get back to like the slaughter of rats. But instead of slaughtering rats, let's slaughter some chickens. However, we're not going to be doing that in game, because just like in the original and this one, you don't really need to kill the chickens. Like, you don't get anything from killing the chickens in this game. You just want their eggs, and they'll just, you know, they'll give you eggs with no murder. But I'm talking about real life, because like, I mean, just like the past year or so, I've just been cooking chicken breasts, I've been cooking chicken thighs, and it's just been delightful. And I've got a whole method I want to share with y'all. So pretty much the way I prepare my chicken is I just kind of cut it open, you know, like from whatever I buy, like chicken breast, chicken thigh. I cut it open, I wash it, and then I put it into this little container where I'm going to like mix it up with my seasonings and sauces and all that. But pretty much once I've washed all my chickens and they're in this little like glass container, I dunk all the chickens with olive oil, and then I start mixing it up, you know, making sure the chicken absorbs that olive oil. This was gonna make it really juicy, right? And then I pour salt all over the chickens. I marinate the chickens with salt, you know, just kind of splash it around with salt. And once I'm done marinating it with like salt, I don't think marinate's the right word, I'm seasoning it with salt. I season it with pepper. Okay, we got some very basic seasonings going on. And then for my third seasoning, I'll go for like an all-arounder. I kind of use a thing called like dash, you know, just got a little bit of everything. Kind of pour that over the chickens. And then for my fourth spice, this is like the specialty spice. This is like a special spice. You want a spice that really stands out. There's like I don't know how to pronounce it, like Kanjun, the Kanjun spice. It's a really spicy spice. I'll use that. That's like a specialty spice. Just pour that over the chicken. Make sure it really like sinks in. Like, you want a spice that will change the entire color of the chicken. Like, if it does that, it's probably gonna be a pretty good spice. There's like this one spice company that makes like some weird mixture of spices. Like, I don't know, I forgot the name of the company, but they have one called Golden Curry. Then they have one like Chili Fire that has a little bit of like cinnamon in it. So, you know, just get really something like that really changes the color of the chicken, and also will probably dirty your fingernails. So yeah, just mix that up. And now once you've done all of that, you can put it in the air fryer. And yes, you could also probably like pan fry it, but honestly, I've just kind of been relying on the air fryer. And like the way it comes out on the air fryer has been really juicy and good. So you know what, like, it's been working out for me like pretty well. And yeah, that's just my chicken lesson. Also, if you do use the air fryer like I've been doing, cook it for like 15 to 17 minutes with like 350 degrees I forgot exactly what degrees, but degrees. And, you know, like 350, 390, 15 minutes to 17 minutes, that chicken will be cooked good. Because unlike with meat, you can't really mess around with raw meat or whatever, because raw chicken will just give you a virus and will kill you. So yeah, no, we're here, and skipping that section pretty much allows us to hoard a ton of ammo, because now I have like near limitless pistol ammo. So, and I do tend to not use the pistol because when you're in really huge groups, like the pistol just doesn't stun as well as I'd like it in this remake, so I can't really rely on it. But the pistol, you know, sometimes you have to really get good and just use the pistol, because sometimes that's the only ammo you got. That's a trade-off. You have a lot of pistol ammo, but you know the other weapons are better. But once you run out of ammo for those weapons, you gotta use the pistol.
Get yourself killed now.
So the merchant in the original game is one of the most iconic things about it, and his new voice is pretty similar, like he's still cool. Though one thing about this game versus the original is that you can't kill the merchant anymore. In fact, if we're going to continue talking about differences, there's this thing you can do in the original game where if Ashley is on top of a staircase and you peek up, she'll go like, like, I'm going to be real, that shit was fucking weird. It's for the best that it gets removed. Like, you know, soul this, soul that. This game doesn't have soul. They're removing the soul. I don't care. It's probably better to fucking remove that. Except for one thing. So that little, like, creepy thing, it did make one thing very funny in the original. Sometimes when you're escorting Ashley and you, like, perform a suplex on the enemy, the way your character model would pretty much, like, be positioned if Ashley's, like, right behind you is that you'd pretty much, like, be under Ashley when you do the suplex, and she'd go, you pervert. When you do that, you'd be like, what the fuck? I just saved your life. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, those moments were pretty fucking funny, I'm not gonna lie. So, removing that does remove that piece of humor. So, like, because you're not even trying to do, like, no creepy shit. You just fucking did that by accident. So, it's just, like, that was funny. But, like, besides that, like, it's good that it's removed. There was another difference. Not so much a difference. Okay, let me get back to the cabin fight, which I glitched myself out of. So right now, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that when you kind of exit an area, most enemies... Okay, so that piece of humor from the original is removed, but they replaced it with her getting fucking slammed in the face. Okay, so... This game has its own humor to make up for some of the humor removed from the original. Like, you just fucking do that. Yeah, so this game has, like, contextual dodge prompts, which, I mean, the original game had contextual dodge prompts for some of the boss fights, but I don't think it really had any for, like, regular enemies. But now, some enemies have moves that are, like, so telegraphed that, like, they kind of want you to give you a little dodge prompt, like with the big old pig enemy. So, boom, boom. So, yeah. If you glitch your way out of the cabin fight, then you pretty much miss out on a piece of emerald from this enemy here. However, I'm just gonna kill this enemy here to get the emerald, but if you kill them at the cabin, you get the emerald there. Now, one thing which I'm not sure of is if you kill all the enemies in the cabin, I'm not sure if they show up here or if they do. I think they probably do. So, you know, you could get 2 emeralds, but you have to waste a lot of ammo to get them. But since I saved up all my ammo, I can kind of just use it here at this moment in time. And there was, oh yeah, so one thing which I've been wanting to mention, but I keep ignoring, okay, it's the graphics. So this game looks incredible, but there's some stylistic differences. Like, this game is kind of going for a bit of a different, like, stylistic look than the original. But I think in some areas it works a little worse than the original, because, like, especially, like, when you first exit the church with Ashley, like, the night and rain is just a lot better pronounced than it is in this game. In this game, it just looks a little bit off. But one thing which I really do like about this game is the way it uses lighting. Like, whenever you're, like, lighting a really dark area with your flashlight. Okay, so whenever you jump off of this area, just be sure not to land on the bear trap. And of course, for this area, like, you start off by sniping the grandmas. You snipe the 3 grandmas. And then once you do that, like, the enemies will be alerted to your presence. So pretty much run to the beginning of the area to pretty much, like, lure. And I get caught in another bear trap. I'm just really glad those bear traps do not damage you, because if they do, I just get fucked over a lot more easily. And then from there, kind of lure the enemies to the beginning of the area, kind of take out whoever shows up. And then after a certain period of time, they'll start running to pretty much... you know, back to their original position, so you can kind of just chase them, kind of shoot everyone up. And if things get too dicey, you can once again return to the beginning of the area to kind of restart everything over. But by the time, I know, yeah, there's gonna be, okay, so this enemy over here fucked me. He's just standing in a little corner, and I don't know, I think there's a save system here, so that's why I really want to get here. And this enemy, I think, is always guaranteed to be one of these, like, wormy fucks, so you have to, like, spend some really good ammo on him, but you need this area. Wait, I don't think it's so much a save area. I think this is just, like, a really good treasure chest. Wait, is it a save area? It is a save area, so, like, you pretty much need to get in here. It's very useful. You don't have to, like, backtrack to the first save point. So, but there's just an enemy here, and you can't really run into this place because the grab detection is so good with these enemies, as in they're really good at grabbing you. They're just running into this area, just like fucks you immediately. And you can't really lure him out in a good way, so the grenade is pretty much like one of the only ways to go from my knowledge. But yeah, no, a real fuck situation, this one. So in Chapter 4 of the remake, they kind of like made a section that was smaller in the original bigger and a bit more non-linear, while here, what they've done is that they took a branching path from the original and have pretty much made it a forced path. Pretty much, near this section of the game, you pretty much had the option of two paths. You either go the path of this part, where you're going to have to kill like 2 chicks with chainsaws in a very big arena, or you could take the path where the El Gigante just kind of chases you down. But here, right now, there's going to be a lady which you can backstab. And for this guy, if you get lucky, you could run up to him and backstab him. But it's a little inconsistent. So instead of backstabbing him, I just decided to kind of shoot him down. And yeah, just this whole village section, you're pretty much forced to fight the chainsaw ladies this time. There's no branching path. And I think this is kind of the reason why I like the village better in Resident Evil 4. I just think the atmosphere is just more palpable. Like the village section of Resident Evil 4, the original, is probably the best part of the game, though there is also good arguments to be made why the castle's better. The castle does go for a very different vibe, but just like the first 2 sections of Resident Evil 4, like the original, are practically perfect. And then, like, the island is still really good, but it's just not as memorable as those first 2 points. Like, there's just a real palpable magic that the first 2 sections of the original Resident Evil 4 really capture. And that magic is still kind of here, but I just don't think it's as potent per se. Maybe with the castle, there's some arguments to be made about why it's a little improved in this remake. I don't know. I mean, I'm not exactly 100% an expert on the original game. It's been a while since I've played it, but, like, I definitely find the village, I think I'm a bigger fan of the village in the original. And I think it's just like, there's this section, pretty much like, where, you know, like the door, which you have to like insert an eyeball into in order to get past it. That little section of area is really magical to me. There's just like this quaint emptiness to it all. And also, once we grab this, the boss fight is going to start. And what we're going to end up doing is I'm going to spam all my grenades against these chainsaw ladies. And also, I broke off a couple locks from the doors in order to kind of escape quicker. Okay, so I think I throw... Okay, I don't use all my grenades, actually. I use like 4 grenades, and then I exit this area. It's going to be filled with enemies. Some of them can throw axes, some of them can throw fire. And it's just like a crazy boss battle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play it very cheap. I'm going to go all the way to the entrance of this area. And what's going to end up happening is that not all the enemies are going to chase after me. The chainsaw ladies definitely will. But this is how I'm going to isolate the chainsaw ladies. And also, I have hidden Ashley in a locker, so she's going to be safe throughout the entire fight. So yeah, like most of the enemies that are going to chase me to the very beginning of this area are the chainsaw ladies, and maybe like 1 or 2 normal enemies. Yeah, see, there's like a normal enemy here, but the main people that are going to have, like, you know, the tenacity to follow me all the way to the beginning of the area is going to be the chainsaw ladies, while most of the other enemies are just going to be, you know, chilling somewhere, like reset to their original positions. So now I can really unload on the 2 chainsaw ladies, you know, go with my grenades, and not worry about getting backstabbed by an enemy who approaches me from the side, and also use my flash grenades in order to get some good stabs in there. The stabs deal a ton of damage. In fact, I think one of the ladies, none of them have died yet, and oh my goodness, like, I'm really lucky that did not hit me. Oh yeah, one thing, so the chainsaw, just enemies in general, are a little bit easier to deal with in this game, because now you can actually parry their chainsaw attack. While in the original game, if that thing made contact with you, it was over. Like, it was a one-hit kill. And yeah, like, it's still a one-hit kill in this game, but, like, you can parry it. So you do have a little bit of defense if, like, the chainsaw comes right after you. Oh yeah, so yeah, there's like this really magical area in the so now we just have to deal with the rest of these regular enemies, and I definitely do not do it in the most fashionable way possible. I do it in a rather messy and kind of slow manner. But yeah, no, there's just like this really atmospheric, empty area, you know, it's got really warm glows. And then there's like that little train cart, or just like sky train. I don't know exactly what to call it. Parasail, transail, I don't know. There's this little sky train you can ride, and then you kind of play a little bit of target practice. And I guess since you can actually move while shooting, the target practice just isn't as novel anymore. But that was like a cute little section where you got to, like, you know, headbutt enemies, and every time you got to like headshot enemies, and every time you did a headshot, Ashley would just kind of do like a fist pump. Mind you, Ashley still does that fist pump whenever you land a good shot on an enemy in this game, so this game is still good. But just like that whole little section, you know, there's like the whole atmosphere of like the little empty like train cart, like, you know, air cart thing. You know, you go to the controls, it's like so empty and like sterile. Just like, it's amazing, and it's completely gone in this game. Honestly, like it just kind of brought the village section to like a really nice conclusion. While here, like, even if this village section is kind of longer, like the ending just feels kind of rushed, because what they've replaced it with is like, this is the last chapter of the village section, so you pretty much get like this boss fight against the 2 chainsaw like ladies. Like, okay, cool. And then you get like a chase sequence with the big cheese, and then you get his boss fight, and then it's over. It just feels like it shouldn't have ended so soon. I mean, yeah, they did expand the chapter 4 section, but then they got rid of that whole little atmospheric ending section, which I'm just really fond of. I guess one thing which always stresses me out with these commentary videos is that I always think I'm gonna like forget to mention something, because like throughout this entire recording process, I forgot about probably one of the most important details I wanted to mention, is that I got in a good workout while doing this no damage, because pretty much like I kind of started doing this thing where every time I died or took damage, I did 10 push-ups, and like the push-ups really added up. Like, I mean, like one day I did 300 push-ups in one day, mind you, not like all in one go, but you throughout the day I did like 15 push-ups, 15 push-ups, 15 push-ups, like every time I, like, you know, died or took damage. And sometimes I'm like, you know what, let me do 20 push-ups. You know, I just kind of kept moving around, and one of the days I did 300 push-ups. But then, like, you know, I had to stop playing this game. I had to focus more on my academics, and I can't really get a good workout in. See, like, the main thing you have to do in that area is get a wheel and also like spin this around, but you can only really do that if all the enemies don't like ambush you. And for some reason, like, there were still enemies in the area, but for some reason they decided like not to run after me, which is really good. But yeah, no, like, I mean, how am I supposed to get push-ups in when I'm like editing a video or something? Like, oh, every time I add a transition, do 10 push-ups? Like, it's just not the same as the no damage workout, you know? Like, I was getting a good pump in, and it was like natural. I was like continuing with the game, because like what am I supposed to do if like I'm doing homework? Like, what, every 5th question do 20 push-ups? Like, it's fucking bullshit, bro. Like, I'm a gamer. I gotta get the pump in through gaming. Like, I mean, at that point, just go to the gym. It's just not as exciting for me. So yeah, here we have a new chase sequence. I mean, there is a slight bit of a chase sequence in the original game, but not at this point. And in this chase sequence, the enemies have been modified to die in less hits, so I can just kind of like spray and pray with the SMG. And pretty much what you want to do is you do not want to let the big cheese catch up to you at this point, because if he does, he grabs Ashley, and once he grabs Ashley, it's over, because he just jumps over the fucking cliff. It's honestly a pretty funny like game over screen. And from here, don't even bother like blowing up that cart, just run to the side, and there you go. So yeah, no, if you're not prepared for like that little chase, it will like screw you up. But if you're prepared, if you have like, you know, a little submachine gun, or just know which enemies to take down, you'll be good. Though there are some pretty scary enemies with the pitchforks and all that. And here we're pretty much about to come up on the boss fight, and it's just like, in the original game, it was a much calmer, like, you know, build up to the boss fight. We're just kind of going on this empty road, and honestly I think I prefer it, because it's just like, you know, you had this really dramatic chase sequence, and now we have a really dramatic boss fight. I just don't think it flows as well. Like, this boss fight is still really damn good, but just like, I think the pacing here is just slightly worse. And that's the thing, though. That's another thing I wanted to mention. Resident Evil 4, like the original game, is one of the most well-paced games of all time. And like, this remake still has really good pacing, but I think like the slight changes it makes makes it like slightly worse in terms of pacing. Just like the original game is just like one of those like, you know, like the original like Resident Evil 4 and Snake Eater are like some of the most well-paced games of all time. Like they're just like, they were just made in an environment where like really expensive games were just built around like really solid, like, you know, 12-so-hour experiences, which if you speed run through it will be more like 2 hours or 3 hours, but like, you know, like it's meaty enough for like a first playthrough, and if you speed run it, you know, it'll be like 3 to 4 hours, so like I guess it's short in that sense. So yeah, so for this fight we're gonna be spending practically the entire thing upstairs. And this fight has been, like, I struggled a lot with this fight. Like, I spent, like, a good 3 to 4 days on it just because, like, I didn't really want to learn its patterns. Like, I was a little stressed with school, and just, I had to learn its patterns, but I also couldn't spend too much time on this fight. Like, it was a pretty stressful fight. And, you know, like, I started hating this guy by the end, but he does have patterns, and you can learn them. But the first phase of this fight is pretty easy. It's the second phase that kind of fucks me up because there's like certain sections that I don't really know how to deal with or telegraph too well. But pretty much what you want to do is shotgun this guy until he gets to this point and then snipe his eyeball like with all 5 of your bullets, and then do it really quickly so you can do this knife attack. And just reminder that at this point I have not upgraded any of my weapons. And while you're at it, be sure to like collect all the items across the area. Like in the beginning of this fight, I decided to kind of run across the top just to collect as many items as possible. And yeah, this is kind of where I start to sorely miss the fire grenades, because the fire grenades did help like move this fight along, because, you know, he took a lot of damage from the fire grenades. And the flash grenades just aren't as useful this time around. Though, to be fair, I think they weren't really that useful beforehand. And like that big attack, I don't know exactly what he does there. You can just kind of walk away from it. This attack, you can do a little evade. And there kind of comes a point in this fight where he'll do a big telegraph and he'll go like, yeah. And when he does the big telegraph, you kind of have to jump off. I think I did it once before in this fight. Once we enter this second phase, do not walk back. There is fire there and you will take fire damage. Just do not walk back. Walk forward. Walk to the left, right. And this is where he starts to do some of his more complicated attacks. So whenever he throws the... let me explain. Okay, so like I have a bone to pick with this lanky fuck in his second phase. So let me explain. So when it comes to like him throwing stuff, he has 3 throwing attacks. 1 where he throws it and it's easy to dodge. This is that attack. 2 where he throws it and, you know, he throws it like crisscross applesauce. And you'll just have to duck for this one. You know, he kind of like telegraphs it. Like whenever he does that, he's going to throw it crisscross applesauce. So just duck and you'll be able to, and that'll like dodge it 9 out of 10 times. Just kind of stand still and duck. And then he has the third attack where he pulls out the red barrels, and usually he'll telegraph like the red barrel attack by like saying something, you know, like burn in his flame. But sometimes he likes to be an asshole and he'll just pull out the red barrels without saying shit. So you can't really rely on that audio cue. You just have to like have ammo on like the ready and just be ready to take him out. You take out those red barrels. Okay, that attack is a fucking pain in the ass to dodge, because like sometimes he'll just move in a really unpredictable manner. You kind of have to like watch where his tentacles go on like the highest layer. Like, let me explain. Like this fucking lanky fuck in chapter 6, this is chapter 6, has this one attack in his second phase. Like, that fucking attack, like I got clipped by that attack so many fucking times. Like that there, I just got incredibly lucky. But most of the time that I fought this fucker, I don't get lucky, because, you know, so he has like that one attack that is basically undodgeable. Like, you have to pretty much see where he positions, like, his tentacles on the higher boards of the wood. Like, the attack is fucking bullshit. And yeah, now I've kind of reached the point where I'm using my pistols. Like, there comes a point, like, in his... where you kind of reach, like, his final phase, where he just speeds up a lot. And I decide that instead of using the sniper, I'm just going to start using the pistol. Though I'll still pull out the shotgun if he comes in close and I still have ammo. And I have a ton of pistol ammo. So yeah, that attack is fucking bullshit. You just kind of have to see where he positions his tentacles upstairs, see where it moves. If it's kind of near the right, then, you know, go to the left. If it's kind of near the center, you know, like, yippity yappity doo. It's fucking weird. It's still bullshit. So yeah, just run to the left or right whenever he does that. Crisscross applesauce, duck, red barrels. Just have enough ammo on hand to actually shoot the damn things, and don't rely solely on the audio cues. It's not consistent. So yeah, no, besides that, I don't really have much to say with this fight beyond that, because like, I think a lot of it is luck, but I am getting really lucky with the pistol here. And yeah, this game kind of got rid of the laser pointer, though you can buy a modification to add it to a few weapons, but not all weapons. So you kind of have a more standardized crosshairs. Also, I made all the crosshairs green because I thought it'd be funny. So yeah, I've been playing with Kiwami crosshairs this entire time. Also, if you thought I was going to go this entire video without mentioning that I have deliberately changed Leon and Ashley's outfits to be more emo, well, you have failed. I am going to mention it. right now. I did it because I thought it looks cool. Like, you know, just you got Leon with his golden mask and, like, you know, this like emo getup. You got Ashley, who looks like a 2005 scene girl. Okay, mind you, I was like 4 years old when 2005 existed, so like I'm not the biggest expert on scene culture. I can't exactly say I participated in it, but she's totally a scene girl, so I decided to just make her that. Honestly, I think one of my biggest disappointments is that all these like cool little clothing things you unlock by doing certain stuff in the game, you know, being really good. This game has a whole little achievement system, and if you do certain things, you'll get certain items. And I am so sad that I was not able to get blue hair and pronouns for Ashley, because in order to get blue hair and pronouns for Ashley, you need to beat the game and get an A rank. But on my first hardcore playthrough, I got a B rank, so I didn't unlock blue hair and pronouns, so I got locked away from that. So yeah, here like the chase would have been around this point instead of before, and honestly, it just would have been better at this point. It would like it's just a nice way to end off the chapter. You have like a little chase, and then boom, you're in the castle section. But now it's just like you beat up the boss fight. There's a bit of calm, and now like that little decision I think is worse. Now, mind you, this video does say chapters 1 through 6. However, this last minute will be spent pretty much playing a small section of the beginning of chapter 7, just because instead of saving after chapter 6, I'm gonna save at the save point of chapter 7. So yeah, this is pretty much the end of the video. Thank you so much for sticking by, and I will be releasing 2 more videos on Resident Evil 4. As for whether I'll release No Damages of Mercenaries, well, one, I don't know if I'm going to continue the Wii edition or like the original game's Mercenaries mode. Like, I mean, I do want to at some day, but it is really fucking hard. As for this game's Mercenaries, from what I've played, it is fun. I do plan on playing some more just to refamiliarize myself with the gunplay, but yeah, thank you so much for sticking by, and I will see you all then.